Hey friends, Christian here, and today we're going to talk about how to engage the world in Christ's name. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about the 3 E's of how to pass on faith. 2 weeks ago, it was about how it begins with an encounter with Christ, and last week we explored how young people are invited to embody Christ's church. Since the church understands itself to be Christ's incarnate body on earth, this means that it doesn't exist on its own or for itself, but for the life of the world. This brings us then to the 3rd E of how to pass on faith. Engage the world in Christ's name. It's just as essential as the other two, and without it, it's hard to imagine how we can call ourselves Christians in any meaningful sense. To explore this, I want to introduce you to my friend, Saint Maria of Paris. If you haven't met her yet, I highly suggest you spend some time with her. She's amazing. Saint Maria, by all appearances, was no saint. She had been divorced twice, smoked cigarettes, and often left liturgy early or even skipped it altogether because of her singular devotion to caring for the poor. She believed that one could not find the path to heaven without participating in God's mercy for the world, and famously said, "The way to God lies through love of people. At the last judgment I shall not be asked whether I was successful in my ascetic practices, nor how many bows and prostrations I made. Instead, I shall be asked, did I feed the hungry, clothe the naked, visit the sick and the prisoners? This is all I shall be asked." The Lord puts an equal sign between himself and anyone in need. She lived this wholeheartedly, and when Nazis invaded Paris and began trying to round up Jews, she protected them by forging baptismal certificates. She eventually was arrested for this and sent to a concentration camp where she spent her final days giving away her food, caring for people who'd been separated from their families, and spreading hope wherever she went. She was sent to the gas chambers and left this life on Holy Saturday, 1945, and some believe that she may have even sacrificed her own life to save another prisoner. One of her fellow prisoners who survived said, "It would have been entirely in keeping with her generous life." In any case, she offered herself consciously to the Holocaust, thus assisting each one of us to accept the cross. She radiated the peace of God and communicated it to us. The same prisoner also said, "The young prisoners gained particularly from her concern. She took us under her wing. We were cut off from our families, and somehow she provided us with a family. This period seemed a paradise to us." Imagine that. Her presence and care transformed what any of us would consider a hell into a paradise. As we look at the world now, we may ourselves be tempted to consider it something of a hell, but Saint Maria points the way for us. The call is not to retreat from that hell, but to transform it into heaven. And we are called to do that through loving our neighbors. Saint Maria said, "The universal church itself is, first of all, the incarnation not only of the commandment of the love of God, but also of love for one's neighbor, and is as unthinkable without the second as without the first." So what does this have to do with us? Good question. Many of our youth and young adults are looking around the church, and they're seeing that we've done an excellent job of preserving the mind of the fathers. But they're wondering, as Father Theophan Whitfield puts it, what has happened to the heart and the hands of the fathers? They see a world plagued by social and global injustice and exploitation. They see the epidemic of loneliness in America. They see how partisan politics has created division, but don't see Jesus in either party. They're hungry for change and eager to make the world more beautiful, loving, and charitable. Unfortunately, many of us either feel the need to rail against the immorality and the traps of society, or to pull back from it altogether, to disengage and not be stained. Young people see an increased call to purity and private devotion, but like Saint Maria, many are saying, piety, piety, but where is the love that moves mountains? Love of neighbor and engagement with others are core to the Christian faith, and many young people are eager to see a body of believers dedicated to caring for the world around them, rather than neglecting the call of Jesus to care for the least. Saint Maria says there is no doubt that the Christian is called to social work. He is called to organize a better life for the workers, to provide for the old, to build hospitals, care for children, fight against exploitation, injustice, want, lawlessness. What matters is that his social work be based on love for neighbor and not have any latent career or material purposes. How do our lives as Christians reflect this? Do they? Or are we generally satisfied sticking to ourselves? Our world is inhuman and painful and something of a hell, but our call is to transform it into heaven as Christ's representatives of love. We too readily settle for the way society has taught us to see ourselves and others as people who deserve their life circumstances based on the amount of work they put into it. But this wasn't the way of Saint Maria, and it isn't the way of Jesus, and many young people are increasingly seeing this. Our prayer as Christians is that the Lord would bring his kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. His kingdom where there is no more hunger, no more loneliness, no more injustice. Indeed, a kingdom where he will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain. For the old order of things has passed away. This isn't a utopian dream. It's the call of the Christian, and young people are waiting to see if we will listen. If we're overly focused on internal things, it's time to turn our attention outward and become a presence of love in the world, to care for those who are considered the least, those who Christ says he is. This is the path of the saints, and it's the only way to introduce the world to the one thing needful, to know Christ, which is precisely where we're going to pick up next week as we begin exploring the 5 needs of young people to preserve faith. In the meantime, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Orthodox Youth Ministries. Check out our website at orthodoxyouthministries.org, join our mailing list, and even get a free PDF on relational ministry. And, as always, do the YouTube things. Like this video and share it. And be sure to subscribe to this channel so that you can receive more content on how you can share God's love with young people. That's all I got. Until next week, we at OYM wish you all peace and sincerely pray that something good happens for you today.